Part 27. God Level Tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tien Tien Taido. Chapter 262. Young Master? This Master Sanyang actually called the other party Young Master? How is this possible? Zhou Kunlun's pupils suddenly shrank, and his eyes suddenly condensed, which once again deepened Zhou Kunlun's speculation. Young Master, this is usually the name that servants call their master, or the name that their servants use to the second generation in power who has a distinguished status. The young master can be the young family master, the young sect master, or the young sect master. But no matter which one it is, it can be explained that the other party comes from a big force. The identity is extraordinary. Zhou Kunlun became more and more certain that the other party must be a genius who came down from some fairy mountain. And the Master Sanyang in front of him is just the servant of the other party. Are you Li Hao? Zhou Kunlun looked at Li Hao coldly and said. Even at this moment, he still didn't see through the other person and didn't know the depth of the other person. That's right. I just heard that you seem to be coming to Jiangbei to kill me. Well, don't bother me. I'll deliver it to you in person. Let's do it. Li Hao said calmly, as if he was talking about an ordinary thing. Arrogant. What about the people of the immortal sect? Today I will let you know that every mountain is as high as the other. After hearing Li Hao's words, Zhou Kunlun said coldly. Boom. As Zhou Kunlun's words fell, the powerful cultivation level in the early stage of the Dan formation realm was directly released from Zhou Kunlun's body, and violent spiritual power circulated on his body, carrying an astonishing power. A person from the immortal sect? Me. Haha. However, Li Hao laughed again. The cultivation level is good, but it's still far from enough. Li Hao said calmly again. Not even close. But Li Hao's words were filled with endless ridicule and contempt in Zhou Kunlun's ears. Suffer death. Zhou Kunlun yelled sternly again, and an extremely fierce offensive came out, blasting directly at Li Hao. Li Hao looked at this scene, but his eyes suddenly condensed. The next moment. Boom. Li Hao's body also directly activated the power of cultivation, and an earth-shattering momentum swept away in an instant with Li Hao's body as the center. At this moment, everyone's expressions changed. Everyone clearly felt a powerful force of oppression coming. Powerful. It's simply too powerful. Zhou Kunlun's expression suddenly changed at this moment, becoming extremely horrified. Middle stage of Ji-Dan realm. How is this possible? At this moment, Zhou Kunlun could clearly feel the opponent's cultivation aura, which was even more powerful than his. This was clearly the aura of the middle stage of the Dan formation realm. Zhou Kunlun was extremely shocked and at the same time even more unbelievable. I don't believe it. Go to hell. Zhou Kunlun said sternly again, and his whole person became a little fierce, not wanting to believe that the other party was so young and had a higher level of cultivation than him. In an instant, Zhou Kunlun descended on Li Hao with a powerful offensive. At this moment, Li Hao's eyes flickered again. Town. Li Hao shouted coldly, an endless storm of spiritual energy rising from his body. The next moment, Li Hao directly raised his hand and pressed it towards the opponent. With Li Hao's press, the color of the world changed. The entire sky became dark at this moment, and the entire sky seemed to collapse at this moment. All I saw was a huge palm print, which shook the sky and covered the earth, descending from the sky with unparalleled power and suppressing Zhou Kunlun. Boom. In an instant, this huge palm print landed directly on Zhou Kunlun. Ah! A huge scream suddenly sounded. Bang! Zhou Kunlun's body was directly suppressed under this palm print. Zhou Kunlun spurted out mouthfuls of blood, and his whole body was smashed directly into the ground, creating a huge depression. At this moment, Zhou Kunlun was in an extremely embarrassed state. He was no longer the same as before. He was lying on the ground, his clothes were torn and scarred, and even his breath was extremely weak. Master of the house. Dad. Dot. Not far away, Jo Junja and others saw the scene and Jo Kunlun's appearance, and they all shouted. Even though Kunlun was in the early stage of the Dan formation realm this week, in Li Hao's hands, he still had no power to fight back and suppressed him by raising his hand. Li Hao still stood proudly in the air, looking calm and calm. The next moment, Li Hao slowly fell down. Young master. Master Sanyang had already arrived in front of Li Hao and shouted to Li Hao again, with a touch of heat in his voice. Master Sanyang was also very shaken in his heart at this moment. The young master is worthy of being a young master. He is so powerful that even Jo Kunlun, who was in the early stage of the Dan formation realm, was easily suppressed. In the heart of Master Sanyang, he once again had a deeper understanding of Li Hao's power. Yeah. Are you okay? Li Hao said lightly. It's okay. It's just that my cultivation has been destroyed by this guy. I may work for you, young master, from now on. Master Sanyang said directly, with a touch of sadness. However, before he could finish speaking, he was directly interrupted by Li Hao. Don't worry. Your cultivation will come back. You will even become stronger. Li Hao said with a smile, but there was a strong confidence in his voice. Li Hao's words fell into the ears of Master Sanyang, but they made Master Sanyang extremely shocked and excited. He chose to believe Li Hao's words without reservation. In front of him, Jo Kunlun was not dead, but he had been severely injured. He was struggling again and getting up unsteadily. He looked at Li Hao. He no longer had the arrogance he had before, and his eyes were full of fear. He saw Li Hao staring at him and walking slowly towards him. Li Hao didn't speak, just looked at Jo Kunlun in front of him, and walked towards him more slowly. At this moment, Li Hao felt a powerful intimidation. Jo Kunlun felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar and was about to die. Suddenly, another majestic momentum was released from Li Hao's body. Li Hao was ready to kill Jo Kunlun in front of him without any hesitation. Spare my life. However, before Li Hao could kill him, Jo Kunlun's expression changed drastically and he shouted to Li Hao in shock. He doesn't want to die, he is a monk in the Dan formation realm. Master Li, please spare my life. Let me live. I was wrong. Jo Kunlun quickly begged Li Hao for mercy. Bang. The next moment, Kunlun Jo knelt down directly towards Li Hao again, making a sound as his knees hit the ground. Spare my life. I will kowtow to you. I am willing to recognize you as my master, and I can serve you front and back. All the assets of my Jo family will be given to you. I am a pill-forming monk, I have some uses for it. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Tian Taido. Chapter 263. Jo Kunlun was really scared when he saw that Li Hao was really going to kill him. He had lived for so long, and he could live even longer. You know, a cultivator in the Jindan realm can live for thousands of years, and he didn't want to die. So, Jo Kunlun kept begging for mercy in front of Li Hao, and kept saying that he even wanted to recognize Li Hao as his master. This scene made Li Hao suddenly stunned. Begging for mercy? Wasn't he so arrogant just now? He actually started begging for mercy now. He even knelt down. I said, can't you be tougher? You are a Jindan realm strongman after all. Li Hao stared at Jo Kunlun and said coldly. I don't want to die, please spare my life. I am willing to recognize you as my master. I, Jo Kunlun, swear to heaven that from now on, I will be Li Hao's servant and will absolutely obey Li Hao's orders. If I disobey, I will be struck by lightning. Jo Kunlun said directly, and even swore an oath to heaven. This is a drop of my life essence blood, I am willing to give it to you. The next moment, Zhou Kunlun thought that Li Hao still didn't believe him, and immediately condensed another drop of essence blood, and then handed it to Li Hao. This is a drop of purple essence blood, which is the life essence blood, which contains Zhou Kunlun's rich vitality and cultivation essence, but at this moment, in order to make Li Hao believe in his determination and to let Li Hao spare his life, Zhou Kunlun has completely given up. When this drop of life essence blood appeared, Zhou Kunlun's breath became weaker, his momentum seemed to be much weaker, and his face became extremely pale and bloodless. Oh my God! At this moment, even the Sanyang Genren beside him widened his eyes and cursed. This guy is really flexible. In order to recognize Li Hao as his master, he even gave out his life essence and blood. Strong enemy. A strong enemy. Sanyang Genren couldn't help but have this thought in his heart, thinking that Zhou Kunlun in front of him would be his strong enemy. Now, it depends on how Li Hao decides. Li Hao was also shocked by the actions of Zhou Kunlun in front of him. This guy was so straightforward that he actually gave out his life essence and blood just to let him go. At this moment, Li Hao's original killing intent in his heart really faded a little. Forget it, since you are so sincere, I will reluctantly spare your life and accept you for the time being. Then, Li Hao sighed again. What the other party said was right. He was a Jindan cultivator, so he was still useful. Instead of killing him directly, it was better to use him as a subordinate. It was convenient to have someone do some things for you. So, Li Hao directly took the other party's drop of life essence. The next moment, the power of cultivation in Li Hao's body was instantly released, and Li Hao's palm quickly formed a seal in the void in front of him. Buzz. In an instant, there was another strange wave on Li Hao's body. On Li Hao's body, a strange rune appeared, and the strange rune was like a huge formation. This is the soul contract. Suddenly, some spiritual light appeared on Li Hao's palm. The strange rune shrank instantly and condensed on Li Hao's palm. The rune shone on Li Hao's palm, and then everyone saw that Zhou Kunlun's drop of life essence was actually directly wrapped by the rune. The next moment, this drop of blood disappeared and entered Li Hao's body. The soul contract was completed. Boom. At this moment, Zhou Kunlun and Li Hao were connected by this contract, and there was an extra connection between the two. Li Hao only felt that Zhou Kunlun's life and death were actually under his control, and he could decide Zhou Kunlun's life and death with a thought. Is this a spirit? Soul contract. Zhou Kunlun naturally felt that his life was under the control of the other party. He stared at the entire soul contract performed by Li Hao with wide eyes, and a storm arose in his heart. He did not expect that the other party would actually perform the soul contract technique. Zhou Kunlun was more and more convinced of his guess at this moment. The other party must be a member of the immortal sect, and he was also a high-level core. Otherwise, how could he know both thunder magic and the soul contract technique? Thinking of this, Zhou Kunlun did not feel the pain of being contracted by Li Hao, but actually had a touch of joy. Although he lost his freedom, he was able to rely on this big brother in front of him. This guy's identity was obviously extraordinary, and he even had the orthodox inheritance of the immortal way. As long as he held on to this big brother, he would be able to go even further in the future. Opportunity, this is also an opportunity. Zhou Kunlun decided to recognize Li Hao as his master because he had this plan. Now he not only saved his life, but also became a person on the same boat with Li Hao. At the moment when Li Hao and Zhou Kunlun signed the soul contract, the drop of Zhou Kunlun's life essence was directly transformed into the purest vitality and cultivation. Boom! Li Hao's body exuded an extremely shocking aura. Li Hao's cultivation actually broke through at this moment. Late stage of the Jindan realm. What a pleasant surprise, this is the benefit that the soul contract brought to Li Hao. Master! Zhou Kunlun stood directly beside Li Hao and shouted respectfully to Li Hao. Just like Sanyang, Just call me young master. Li Hao said calmly to Zhou Kunlun. Yes. Young master. Zhou Kunlun nodded immediately. At this moment, Zhou Junja's eyes widened, unable to believe that he had seen this scene. Dad, why do you recognize him as your master? Naughty son, come here quickly. Pay homage to the young master. Zhou Kunlun shouted directly and angrily at Zhou Junja. When Zhou Junja heard Zhou Kunlun's words, his expression suddenly changed and became extremely ugly. Want him to meet this Li Hao? Zhou Junja felt that his whole body was not well. However, even his father recognized the other party as his master, and he had no choice but to recognize the reality. Zhou Junja finally came to Li Hao and lowered his head. Goodbye, young master. Zhou Junja said this with difficulty. Li Hao looked at Zhou Junja with a half-smile, and said lightly. Some people are not something you can afford to offend. So, sometimes, it's better to keep a low profile. Li Hao's faint voice sounded so ironic in Zhou Junja's ears. Zhou Junja felt a chill in his heart, but he was unable to refute. Who would have thought that because of offending a young man, the Zhou family would suddenly change? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 264. From this moment on, the Zhou family has changed. Even Zhou Kunlun, the head of the Zhou family, has become Li Hao's slave. Naturally, Li Hao alone has the final say in the entire Zhou family. But at this moment, Li Hao's eyes narrowed slightly again. Li Hao noticed that there were several powerful auras coming towards this side. This Beijing is indeed a hidden dragon and a crouching tiger. There are 4 or 5 auras, and there are actually 2 auras among them that are more powerful than Kunlun this week. Obviously, these people must be the bosses of Jinghua, and they must have been attracted by the aura he had released before. Someone is here. Say hello to Zhou Kunlun. Li Hao said directly to Zhou Kunlun. Zhou Kunlun's expression condensed when he heard Li Hao's words. Someone is coming? No. Zhou Kunlun was confused, but the next moment he felt those powerful auras, and his heart was shocked. Sure enough, someone is coming. The young master is so awesome. The next moment, Zhou Kunlun saw that in front of Li Hao, all the original cultivation aura in his body had been restrained at this moment. It looked like Li Hao was just an ordinary young man with no ability to cultivate himself. Obviously, the young master does not want to be too high profile or attract too many people's attention. After another breath, those figures moved from far to near, and had already arrived above the Zhou family. A distinguished guest is coming to our door, and someone in Zhou is waiting to welcome you from afar. Zhou Kunlun said directly, his voice resounded through the sky and echoed in the space. Just at this moment, several majestic figures appeared in the void outside Zhou's house. Zhou Kunlun also floated directly up and stood opposite these figures. Master Zhou, long time no see. An old man in grey robes, who looked kind-hearted and in his 70s or 80s, spoke directly to Zhou Kunlun. The old man stood with his hands behind his back. He looked extremely wise, and his eyes were extremely deep, as if he could see into people's hearts. Master Zhou, congratulations. On the other side, there was an old man, just an old woman. He was holding a string of rosary beads in his hand, as if he often fasted and worshipped Buddha. He also smiled and said to Zhou Kunlun, "Congratulations. Master Zhou. I didn't expect that the head of the Zhou family would actually enter the Dan formation realm. It's really gratifying and congratulatory. Our country, Great China, has finally produced another powerful Danji Dan master." In addition to the old man in grey robe and the old woman, there were 3 other people, a middle-aged man in black, with a very strong body and superb temperament, and a thin middle-aged man who looked quite handsome. A bit thin and sickly, and a man in military uniform who looked to be in his 30s, with a touch of cold arrogance on his body. As soon as several people appeared, they directly congratulated Jo Kunlun. They could naturally feel the powerful cultivation aura of Jo Kunlun in front of them, who had clearly entered the realm of pill formation. Haha. It's embarrassing to say that. I have been practicing Taoism for hundreds of years and only broke through to the realm of pill formation, which makes a few people laugh. After hearing what a few people said, Jo Kunlun smiled again and said, "My little deeds are nothing in the eyes of the Zhao family and the Qian family. It's not worth mentioning. It's not worth mentioning." Jo Kunlun said very modestly. "These people in front of me are the leaders of several major families in Jinghua. Let's just say that this grey-robed old man is the head of the Zhao family, the largest family in Beijing, Zhao Qinkaiu, who has been in the middle stage of pill formation many years ago, and this old woman is the head of the Qian family. Qian Yunxian is also a strong man in the Dan formation realm. As for the other three people, one is from the Li family, one is from the Sun family, and one is from the garrison. They are all in the late stage of foundation building." When these people appeared, Li Hao also looked at them immediately. At a certain moment, Li Hao felt a strange color in his heart. Li Hao's eyes fell on the thin middle-aged man. This middle-aged man looked sick and even weak, but Li Hao's eyes suddenly froze. At the first sight of this middle-aged man, Li Hao felt an inexplicable feeling of familiarity. It was an inexplicable feeling of familiarity. He didn't know where this familiarity came from, but Li Hao felt as if he had seen this middle-aged man before. It's really strange. Li Hao felt a strange emotion in his heart. This was his first time in Jinghua. The other party was a person from Jinghua. How could he have seen him before? A trace of doubt arose in Li Hao's heart. "You guys came all the way here, presumably not just to congratulate me, right? I wonder what your specific duties are." Jo Kunlun said directly to several people again. Haha. Master Zhou is really quick to talk. After hearing Jo Kunlun's words, Zhao Qinkaiu said directly again. "I dare to ask Master Zhou, who else was here just now? Can you introduce him to him?" As Zhao Qinkaiu spoke, his eyes scanned the crowd below. When he saw Master Sanyang, his eyes narrowed slightly and glanced over Li Hao's body, but he noticed nothing. Huh? Are there any strong people here? After hearing what the other party said, Jo Kunlun's face suddenly showed a strange color, and he said in surprise. "True movie king." Seeing Jo Kunlun like this, Qian Yongxian and others frowned slightly. Are there no other strong men? Did they make a mistake? How is this possible? But no matter what they said, Jo Kunlun still looked like he knew nothing. Well, forget it. Since the head of the Zhou family doesn't want to say it, let's go back. Forget it, let's go back. Finally, several people sighed again and left one after another. They also saw that Jo Kunlun didn't want to say it, so they naturally wouldn't force him. Until these powerful auras gradually went away, until they disappeared into Li Hao's perception, Li Hao said to Jo Kunlun again. They're gone. These people, are they all from those big families? Li Hao asked Jo Kunlun directly. Yes, this grey-robed old man is the head of the Zhao family, the first family in Beijing, Zhao Qinkaiu. And this old woman is the head of the Qian family, Qian Yongxian, who is also a strong man in the Jindan realm. The other thin middle-aged man is the current head of the Li family, Li Xiaodao. The other two, one is the current head of the Sun family, Sun Tianli. As for the last man, he is the garrison commander of the garrison army, his name is Wu Jun. Jo Kunlun told Li Hao directly, in great detail. But Li Hao suddenly froze again. Li Xiaodao of the Li family. Why did he feel familiar with this Li Xiaodao? God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 265. Li Hao didn't know why, but he felt familiar with Li Xiaodao, but Li Hao was sure it was the first time he saw him. It's really strange. The system didn't even give any prompts or anything. Don't prompt when it's really time to prompt. Forget it, Li Hao stopped wondering. Zhou Kunlun, the reason why you want to ask me for those elixirs is because you want to refine the foundation establishment pill, right? Li Hao looked at Zhou Kunlun again and said directly to Zhou Kunlun. When Zhou Kunlun heard Li Hao's words, a strange color suddenly appeared on his face. Young master, how do you know? Zhou Kunlun opened his eyes and said to Li Hao, and then looked at Zhou Junja. Dad, I never said that. Zhou Junja was immediately stunned and said quickly. But at this moment, Master Sanyang suddenly laughed. Haha, if the young master hadn't looked down on the half-finished foundation establishment pill, how could that foundation establishment pill fall into your hands? Master Sanyang said disdainfully. When Zhou Kunlun and others heard what Master Sanyang said, they couldn't help but look shocked again. It turned out that the half-finished foundation establishment pill fell into their hands only because someone had let it go. I didn't expect that you would analyze this half-finished foundation establishment pill and analyze the recipe. I only heard Li Hao say lightly again. After hearing Li Hao's words, Zhou Kunlun and others felt panic in their hearts. I thought this was their most confidential matter, but I never expected that the opposition would find out everything. But even if you have the elixir recipe and the elixir, can you refine the foundation building elixir? Li Hao asked Zhou Kunlun again. Zhou Kunlun's face suddenly felt bitter, and then he shook his head. Young master is laughing, how can this foundation establishment pill be something we can refine? To refine the foundation establishment pill, you need a real alchemist. In the entire Great China Kingdom, there are definitely no more than one alchemist. Zhou Kunlun said immediately. Haha. Are there so few alchemists? After hearing Zhou Kunlun's words, Li Hao murmured again. The next moment, a faint smile appeared on Li Hao's face. Sanyang. Suddenly, Li Hao shouted to Master Sanyang again. Master Sanyang was stunned for a moment. He didn't know what Li Hao was calling him, but he still said to Li Hao respectfully. Young master, I am here. Swallow this pill directly. I heard him say it directly again. Immediately, Master Sanyang saw a round pill appearing in Li Hao's hand, with strange lines on the pill. In an instant, the fragrance of the elixir suddenly emitted, and just a smell of it made people feel refreshed. Pill. Master Sanyang was shocked when he saw the elixir in Li Hao's hand. He could naturally see how extraordinary the elixir in front of him was, but he didn't know what kind of elixir it was and what its specific effects were. At this moment, even Zhou Kunlun and others had a look of surprise in their eyes. Without any hesitation, Master Sanyang took the elixir from Li Hao's hand and swallowed it in front of everyone. This elixir melts in the mouth and turns into a stream of spiritual liquid, which directly enters the body of Master Sanyang, and then enters the flesh, meridians, and even bones. Boom! At the moment when the elixir was swallowed by Master Sanyang, a powerful aura suddenly emitted from Master Sanyang's body. You know, Master Sanyang was deprived of his cultivation by Zhou Kunlun before. At this moment, Master Sanyang's cultivation actually returned again. The spiritual liquid transformed from this elixir flows in the body of Master Sanyang, nourishing Master Sanyang's originally injured body like spring rain nourishing the earth. Master Sanyang's broken meridians, flesh and blood, and even bones are all at this moment was repaired. At the same time, Master Sanyang's broken dantian was repaired again, and a pedestal was once again condensed in his dantian. That is the foundation of cultivation. Master Sanyang, at this moment, once again established his foundation. Boom boom boom. Master Sanyang's aura immediately began to rise, along with his cultivation level. Early stage of foundation building, middle stage of foundation building. Boom. In a matter of moments, Master Sanyang's cultivation had reached its previous peak. However, his aura is still getting stronger. Boom. In the next moment, Master Sanyang's cultivation level directly broke through the middle stage of foundation establishment, reached the late stage of foundation establishment, and even reached the peak of the late stage of foundation establishment, only one step away from the Dan formation stage. Break and stand. Sanyang Genren, who was originally deposed, actually built a high-level foundation again under the powerful effect of this top-grade foundation building pill. He even broke through and established his cultivation level further, becoming a strong man in the late stage of foundation building. All this happened very quickly. In almost the blink of an eye, Master Sanyang completed his transformation from a useless person to a strong man in the late stage of foundation building. Am I a foundation building monk again? Have I broken through to the late stage of foundation building? Master Sanyang felt the changes in his body, and he was shocked. Of course, he was even more excited and happy. Thank you so much, young master. Even if Sanyang goes through fire and water, he can never repay you for your kindness. Master Sanyang saw Li Hao again, knelt down and bowed down, and then said to Li Hao with tears of gratitude. Master Sanyang's heartfelt gratitude was a true surrender to Li Hao. With cultivation, it will be easier to do things. Li Hao waved his hand and said directly. Next to them, Zhou Kunlun and others felt turmoil in their hearts. Young master, is this the foundation building pill? Did you refine it? Zhou Kunlun asked Li Hao tentatively. Li Hao said calmly. No, this is the best foundation building pill. It was indeed refined by me. When Li Hao's voice fell, Zhou Kunlun was shocked to the extreme. The ultimate foundation building pill. Refined by Li Hao. Doesn't this mean that this Li Hao is still an excellent alchemist? Hiss. Zhou Kunlun couldn't help but take a breath of cold air, but there was a touch of fire in his heart. This time, I really hugged the right thigh. Just being a top alchemist can make many people flock to him, and even take the initiative to do things for Li Hao. Next time if there are those elixirs again, send them all to me. If everything is done well, you will definitely be indispensable for the top quality foundation building pills. Li Hao said directly to Zhou Kunlun again. Yes. Young master. Regarding the elixir, please feel free to leave it to us. Zhou Kunlun immediately patted his chest and said in assurance. I'll leave first. If anything happens, I will call you directly. Li Hao said directly again and was about to leave. Young master, are you going back to Jiangbei? Aren't you going to stay in Jinghua for a few more days? Zhou Kunlun asked directly. No, I won't go back yet. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 266. I won't go back for the time being. I still have a house in Jinghua. I'm here this time to check it out. Li Hao said directly. Now that he has arrived at Jinghua, Li Hao is ready to go directly to collect the property that the system gave him last time. House. Zhou Kunlun was startled again when he heard Li Hao's words. What he didn't expect was that Li Hao was actually going to take over the house. Young master, although my Zhou family in Jinghua is not as good as those of Zhao Qian, Sun, and Li, they still have a lot of real estate in Jinghua. There should still be 180 units. Young master, do you want to live in it yourself or get one? Are you going to give them away? These belong to my Zhou family and they belong to you. You can just use them if you like them. It's just one house, why do you have to go there in person? Zhou Kunlun immediately said to Li Hao that in his opinion, it was just a house, and there was no need for Li Hao to go there personally to check it. And since he had recognized Li Hao as his master, everything about the Zhou family would be it also belongs to Li Hao. As one of several large families in Jinghua, the Zhou family naturally owns a lot of real estate. Haha, no need. You don't understand. When Li Hao heard Zhou Kunlun's words, he smiled lightly and said, although it was just a house, it was given by the system. Although Li Hao didn't know what this property was, it was definitely good. Maybe it's a courtyard house. Li Hao was still quite curious about this house, so he was still going to go there in person. Young master, where is that house? Why don't you let this guy follow you? Jinghua is very familiar with this guy. Hearing Li Hao's words, Zhou Kunlun's heart condensed slightly, and he immediately said that he wanted Zhou Junjie to follow Li Hao. Li Hao was from Jiangbei, and Beijing should not be familiar with it. It seems to be at Jianan Street in Zhuangqinj. Li Hao said calmly again. Zhuangqinj Jianan Street. When Zhou Kunlun heard the address read out by Li Hao, a look of surprise appeared on his face again. It seems that there are all courtyard houses over there. Young master, have you bought a courtyard house? A courtyard? That's right. It's okay to let him come along. After taking over the room, he will take me to visit Jinghua. This is my first time here. Li Hao was startled again, and then said directly. However, when Zhou Kunlun and others heard Li Hao's words, they felt surprised again. First time here? Is this actually the first time for Li Hao to come to Beijing? How is this possible? You brat, did you hear that? Zhou Kunlun immediately kicked Zhou Junjie next to him and said sternly. Yes, Dad, don't worry. Zhou Junjie responded quickly and made arrangements directly. After a while, Li Hao got into a black Toyota business car. Apart from the driver, Zhou Junjie was the only one in the car, and headed directly to Jianan Street in Zhuang City. The car galloped all the way, covering a distance of tens of kilometers, from the suburbs of Jinghua to the central area of Jinghua, and also to the bustling area of Jinghua. There are many high-rise buildings here, and there is a bustling atmosphere everywhere. However, there is an area between these tall buildings that is particularly special. The commercial vehicle finally arrived at Zhuangqinj Jianan Street. Jianan Street in Zhuangqinj is not a bustling commercial street, but an antique street. Is this Zhuangqinj Jianan Street? Li Hao murmured and looked ahead. The street was not wide. It could even be said to be an alley, but there were grand courtyard doors on both sides. Young master, this is Zhuangqinj Jianan Street. The houses here are all courtyard houses. What is the number of your house? Next to Li Hao, Zhou Junjie couldn't help but ask. In Zhou Junjie's heart, he was also extremely shocked. This is a courtyard house, which is not something ordinary people can buy. These courtyard houses are worth as little as 1 or 200 million to as many as billions. There are countless bigwigs in Beijing. There are countless people who can afford a courtyard house, but there are only a handful of people who can buy a courtyard house. After all, there are only so many courtyard houses. And the people who can buy a courtyard house are all the bosses among the bosses, with astonishing status. Li Hao was actually able to win a courtyard here, which is enough to show how powerful his energy is. As the heir to the Zhou family, Zhou Junjie naturally knew these things very well. At this moment, he felt more and more awe of Li Hao in his heart. It seems to be from the 7th to the 9th. Help me find out which set it is from. Li Hao said directly. Numbers 7 to 9? His number 3. The next moment, Zhou Junjie was shocked again when he heard Li Hao's words. There were actually 3 house numbers. Zhou Junjie was so shocked that he responded directly, and then began to search along Zhuangqingan Street, looking for the house number of Li Hao's house. This is number 2. It should be over there. Zhou Junja looked at the house number on a courtyard house, murmured, and hurriedly ran forward in the next moment. Li Hao, on the other hand, sat in the car and followed behind. Soon. Number 3, number 4, number 5. Zhou Junja ran for a long distance and passed the entrances of several courtyard houses. Finally, he came to the entrance of another courtyard house. Number 6. This is no 6. Zhou Junja immediately looked at the house number of this courtyard house. It was number 6, Jinan Street, Zhuang City. Zhou Junja couldn't help but say. The next moment, Zhou Junja suddenly turned his head again and looked further ahead. Why is it gone? Zhou Junja saw that there was no building in front of the courtyard at number 6, Zhuangqingan South Street. Instead, there was a huge empty space. This scene directly made Zhou Junja's face look strange. At this time, Li Hao also got out of the car and looked forward. No? How is it possible? Li Hao said lightly, but he felt that it was impossible in his heart. The system could not fool him. Li Hao immediately walked forward again. The next moment, after turning the corner, the empty space was even larger, like a huge square. A huge building appeared in front of Li Hao, which made Li Hao's eyes light up and his expression was also shocked. It was a magnificent building. The blue stone was paved into a huge entrance square. A huge portal stood in front. It was magnificent. The gate occupied 3 rooms. There were stone lions on both sides of the front. On the central door, the words Wangfu were written. Is this a Wangfu? Shit, this is not the palace. Li Hao looked at the palace in front of him, and was shocked. A shocking thought came to his mind. The house given by the system, could it be this palace in front of him? Number 7-9, Zhuangqingan South Street? This is it? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 267. Li Hao looked at the magnificent palace in front of him, and his heart was shocked. This palace is number 7 after number 6, Zhuangqingan South Street, and there is no other courtyard in front, only this palace. Could it be that this palace is number 7-9, Zhuangqingan South Street? Is it the house rewarded by the system? This shocking thought came to Li Hao's mind. Young master, it's really strange. This courtyard is number 6, and there is no one next to it. I didn't see the number 7-9 you mentioned. At this time, Zhou Junja also walked around and came to Li Hao's side, and said to Li Hao with some confusion. However, Li Hao did not speak. Instead, he walked straight ahead. Seeing Li Hao's actions, Zhou Junja also looked forward, and suddenly a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. Huh? Li Wang Mansion. Zhou Junja naturally saw the palace in front of him. This is a palace called Li Wang Mansion. It was once the residence of a prince. The prince was extremely powerful and his title was Li Wang, so this palace was called this name and has been preserved until now. As a native of Beijing, Zhou Junja naturally knew that the Li Wang mansion in front of him was a building left over from hundreds of years ago. It was very famous in the whole of Beijing. It was one of the few palaces in Beijing city and a very famous tourist attraction. It covers a large area and has many historical things. Zhou Junja saw Li Hao walking towards the palace, and a trace of doubt appeared on his face, and he immediately followed him. Li Hao came to the front of the Li Wang mansion. At this moment, there were some figures in front of the Li Wang mansion, like a group of tourists, some of whom were taking pictures with cameras and mobile phones. There was also a beautiful woman in the front wearing a shirt, holding a small flag in her hand, and sitting and explaining to these tourists with a loudspeaker. What you see in front of you is the Prince Li's Palace. The Prince Li's Palace was first built in 1766. It has a history of more than 200 years. The Prince Li's Palace covers an area of 40 hectares. It is the largest palace in Jinghua City. It is large in scale and covers a wide area. It has multiple doors and deep courtyards, with hundreds of rooms. The Prince Li's Palace is also one of the highest level palaces in Jinghua City. The Prince Li's Palace is mainly divided into 3 roads. The middle road has the main gate, the second gate, the Yinan Hall, the through hall gate, the temple, and the back gate. The west road of the palace is a garden with pavilions and towers in a staggered manner, and the design is very clever. The east road of the palace was originally where Prince Li and his family lived. It is said that Prince Li has infinite power and is a legendary cultivator. Later, he went to seek immortality and disappeared, but the Prince Li's palace was preserved by his descendants. The beautiful tour guide talked about it in detail, introducing the magnificent Prince Li's palace to the tourists behind her. 40 hectares? That's 600 acres? This is too big. 600 acres? My God! This is in Jinghua City. When hearing the introduction of this beautiful tour guide, some tourists exclaimed and were really shocked. 600 acres. This is in Jinghua, where every inch of land is worth gold. The imperial capital. What? Prince Li is actually a cultivator? Is it true? And when he heard that Prince Li was actually a cultivator, he couldn't believe it. Guide by, can we go in? I want to go in and take a look. At this time, someone asked the beautiful tour guide again. The name of this beautiful tour guide is Baimwea, and everyone calls her Guide Bai. Yes, Guide Bai. This door is so magnificent. What is the scene inside? I also want to go in and take a look. We all want to go in and take a look. Can we go in? At this time, there were several tourists next to them who also echoed, all of whom looked like they wanted to go in and take a look. After hearing these people's words, Baimwei sighed again. Alas, you can't go in. This Li Wang mansion is a private mansion. There are still descendants of Li Wangjai, and people can't go in casually. You see, there are still people guarding it. Baimwei shook her head and said, looking at the gate of this Li Wang mansion, she also felt a little disappointed. As a tour guide, she brought countless waves of tourists here and introduced this Li Wang mansion countless times, but she has never been inside this Li Wang mansion. She also wanted to go into the Li Wang mansion to take a look. It's not that she hadn't tried before, but without exception, she was stopped by someone. In front of her, even though the gate of the Li Wang mansion was tightly closed, there were still 2 strong young men standing at the door, like guards. They didn't speak, but they couldn't help but exude a cold aura, which made people daunted and discouraged. Ah! Private mansion? Such a big Li Wang mansion is actually a private mansion. This is the real local tyrant. How much is such a big palace worth? 10 billion or 100 billion? Oh, I can't go in. It's a pity. I really want to go in and see what it looks like. When everyone heard Baimwei's words, they were amazed again. Such a big mansion was actually private, which shocked them. Baimwei looked at the disappointed faces of the crowd, but there was nothing she could do. The only way to get in was to get the consent of the owner of the palace, but even now, Baimwei had never even seen the owner of the palace, and didn't even know who he was. However, at this moment, a young man came to Baimwei's side without knowing when. What a handsome young man! Baimwei looked at the young man, and a gleam of light suddenly bloomed in her beautiful eyes. She couldn't help but be shocked, just because the young man in front of her was so handsome, with a handsome face, smooth and fair skin, and a sharp and cold handsomeness. His thick eyebrows were slightly raised upwards rebelliously. Under his long and slightly curled eyelashes, his dark and deep eyes looked wild and unrestrained, evil and sexy, and he also exuded this transcendent temperament, which made people fascinated. Baimwe suddenly had an indescribable strange feeling in her heart. She had seen countless handsome boys, but she had never seen a boy like the one in front of her, unique and outstanding. The young man who came to Baimwe's side was naturally Li Hao. As a Jindan cultivator, his body had already undergone a sharp transformation, his skin was better than that of girls, and he naturally had an extraordinary temperament, always releasing the charm that made people feel uncomfortable. Chapter 247 is still blocked and has not been released yet. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 268. No wonder Baimwe was like this when she saw Li Hao, because Li Hao was so charming at the moment. His temperament was top-notch, and there was a touch of spiritual power on his body, which gave people around him a very comfortable feeling. When Baimwe saw Li Hao, her beautiful eyes could not be moved away. However, the handsome young man in front of her did not even look at her. This made her brows slightly frowned. Someone actually ignored her? This made Baimwe, who had many suitors, feel a little uncomfortable. At this moment, Li Hao did not pay any attention to the people around him, but set his sights on one corner of the gate of the Li Wang mansion. There. The house number of this palace was on the corner of the wall. Even though it was a long distance away, Li Hao still saw the words and numbers on the house number clearly. It was written on the house number 7, 8, and 9, Zhuangqingan South Street. Sure enough. Li Hao said inwardly. It's really here. Li Hao confirmed one thing, that is, the house that the system gave him is right here, the Li Wang mansion in front of him. His. At this moment, even Li Hao couldn't help but take a breath of cold air, and a huge wave of emotion arose in his heart. It's like the bull was on a business trip and left the cow alone at home, so he asked the elephant to look after her. A few days later, when the bull came back, he found a serious problem. Awesome. It's really awesome. The system is worthy of being a system. Just gave me a palace casually. Before, Li Hao thought it was a courtyard house or something, but he never thought it would be a palace. Li Hao stared blankly at the Li Wang mansion in front of him, his heart was filled with unparalleled excitement, and he couldn't help himself for a long time. Other tourists around him also noticed Li Hao. What is he looking at? So absorbed in it? Someone said in doubt, and the next moment he also looked in the direction of Li Hao's sight. Huh. The house number of this palace actually has 3 numbers. I never knew that there could be 3 numbers on a house number. I really didn't notice it if you didn't tell me. It's true. Awesome. The next moment, someone else made an uproar, and also noticed the house number of this Li Wang mansion, and immediately saw that this house number was unusual. However, immediately afterwards, everyone saw that this young man actually walked directly to the front door, as if he was going to go into this Li Wang mansion. This guy, doesn't he know that this Li Wang mansion is a private residence? Is he trying to go in? Hey! Seeing this scene, Baimwe couldn't help but shout to Li Hao. Wait a minute. Li Hao stopped when he heard the voice, and then looked at Baimwe. Li Hao then noticed that there was a beautiful woman wearing a professional suit, holding a small flag in her hand, and a work badge hanging on her chest. She was a tour guide at first glance. She had short hair and a plump figure. She was extremely charming. If she scored a perfect score, she would be at least 85 points. You called me? Li Hao asked in doubt. What are you going to do? This Li Wang mansion is a private mansion, you can't get in. Baimwe immediately reminded Li Hao, but it was out of kindness. You can't get in? Not necessarily. Li Hao was stunned when he heard the other party's words, but he said directly. By the way, my name is Li Hao. Not He. After saying that, Li Hao actually took another step and walked towards the gate of the Li Wang mansion in front. Seeing this scene, Bai Mui was also stunned, and then a trace of indignation appeared on her pretty face. He called Li Hao, not He. It's really hateful. Bai Mui snorted coldly and stamped her feet in anger. She kindly reminded him, but he didn't appreciate it at all. You'll be in trouble later. However, at this time, Zhou Junjie also came over. Zhou Junjie saw that Li Hao actually wanted to go into the Li Wang mansion, and his expression changed, and he immediately ran up. Young master, what are you doing here? This Li Wang mansion is a private residence, you can't go in. Zhou Junjie hurriedly reminded Li Hao. This Li Wang mansion is a special place in Jinghua City. Even he has never been in it, but he heard from his father that this Li Wang mansion is not accessible to ordinary people, even foundation building cultivators. Li Hao, take a look at the house number first. Li Hao said directly to Zhou Junjie. The next moment, Zhou Junjie heard Li Hao's words and immediately looked at the house number hanging on the corner of the wall. In an instant, Zhou Junjie's sight froze directly. Number 7, 8, 9, Zhuangqingan South Street. His. Zhou Junjie widened his eyes, looked at the numbers on the house number, opened his mouth, and couldn't help but take a breath. Number 7789? Oh my God, this is the house you said, young master? Li Wangfu. Zhou Junjie said in disbelief, his voice was stuttering, obviously shocked. This is Li Wangfu. Is this your house, young master? If the house number is correct, it should probably be here. Li Hao saw Zhou Junjie's look, but laughed again and said lightly. Li Hao ignored Zhou Junjie and continued to walk forward. Soon, he arrived at the gate. Stop. This is the Li Wang mansion. It's a private residence. Please leave quickly. The two strong men standing at the door immediately took a step across and blocked Li Hao, with one hand on his back and the other hand deep in a blocking gesture. There was a hint of coldness in their eyes and a hint of pride in their voices. Moreover, there was a hint of boldness in the two men. Warrior. Innate warrior. Li Hao could tell at a glance that the two gatekeepers were also innate warriors. This Li Wang mansion is not ordinary. Looking at the two, Li Hao remained calm and said lightly. I'm here to collect the house. This house should be mine. When Li Hao's voice fell, everyone felt a little bit unbelievable. What? What did he say? He's here to collect the house? Is this house his? How is that possible? He actually said that the Li Wang mansion is his. Not far away, those people couldn't help but make an uproar when they heard what Li Hao said. Some even laughed, and looked at Li Hao with a strange look in their eyes, as if they were looking at something. Even Bai Mui was stunned at this moment. This guy, is there something wrong with his brain? Bai Mui had this thought. Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? How dare you say that our Li Wang mansion is yours? The two men spoke to Li Hao in a harsh voice, with unfriendly eyes. God-level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 269. The two men looked at Li Hao coldly, with unkind expressions on their faces. The young man in front of him actually said that Prince Li's mansion belonged to him. How could that be possible? Go away quickly. Otherwise, we will be rude to you. One of the two men guarding the gate said sharply to Li Hao again, looking fierce. I'm not kidding. When Li Hao heard what the two said and saw their appearance, his brows instantly wrinkled and he said seriously again. You're welcome. Even in front of them, the two of them were not polite. If you do it, you will be the ones who suffer. Li Hao looked at the first two people coldly and said. Young master, let me come. However, At this moment, Zhou Junja behind him volunteered and stood up. Boom! In an instant, a majestic aura emerged from Zhou Junja's body, and he made a fierce look, ready to take action. Zhou Junja is also an innate warrior who has tempered his body with spiritual fluid. At this moment, the two men guarding the gate felt Zhou Junja's aura, and their expression suddenly changed. This young man's subordinate turned out to be an innate warrior. The identity of the young man in front of me is probably unusual. But they are the guards of Prince Li's mansion, and they are people from Prince Li's mansion. Behind them, there are real monks. So, even if the guy in front of me has an extraordinary status, so what? Without cowardice. Our Prince Li's mansion can't let people in casually. If you want to force your way in, be careful about the consequences. At this time, another man said coldly. He he. Hearing what the other party said, Li Hao laughed again. Can someone come out to take care of it? This house really belongs to me. Li Hao said directly again. How can it be that we, the manager of Prince Li's mansion, meet you just when you ask? Who are you? One of the men said in a cold voice, and his voice was also filled with a sense of pride. Even as guards, they felt superior. If that's the case, then I can only go in by myself. When Li Hao heard what the other party said, he said coldly. After the words fell, he continued to move forward. Damn it, I'm looking for death. No matter who you are, don't even think about going in. The two people immediately shouted sternly at Li Hao. A powerful and brazen momentum instantly burst out from the two of them, carrying an extremely powerful and fierce attack, and blasted directly at Li Hao. Li Hao stood there, his eyes slightly focused, but he didn't move at all, and his expression didn't change at all. Before Li Hao could speak, Zhou Junja next to him also launched a powerful offensive and directly confronted the two of them. Bang! Immediately afterwards, the three of them clashed against each other and made a dull sound. Bang 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 bang. Zhou Junja's figure was directly shaken several steps away. On the other hand, the figures of the two men guarding the door were also knocked back a few steps. The three of them were all innate warriors. In an instant fight, Zhou Junja was 1 against 2, but they were evenly matched. The fight started. They all seemed to be very powerful. They all seemed to be warriors. Do you want to call the police? When the three of them took action, the tourists not far away were also directly shocked by this scene. Although you are also an innate warrior, you alone are no match for the two of us. Therefore, if you want to enter, there is no way. At this time, one of the two gatekeepers said coldly again. After hearing the other party's words, Zhou Junja's expression condensed. Whether he is your opponent or not, you will know immediately. Zhou Junja said sharply again. The next moment, a small transparent bottle filled with cyan liquid appeared in Zhou Junja's hand. Seeing this scene, the two people were startled, and their expressions suddenly became a little ugly. Stamina potion. The two of them naturally recognized the bottle of liquid in Zhou Junja's hand. It was clearly a special spiritual liquid, also called a physical potion, which could enhance a warrior's combat effectiveness in a short period of time, at the cost of burning the body's vitality. If the other party uses this physical strength potion, the result will be really hard to predict. Yes, this is a stamina potion. Zhou Junja suddenly said sternly that the bottle of physical strength potion in his hand was his trump card. He would not use it until the critical moment, because this physical strength potion has powerful side effects, that is, the body will be very weak after using it. And even has some side effects. But at this moment, he still wanted to show off in front of Li Hao, and to be able to deal with the two people in front of him, he didn't care about so much. Li Hao was also startled. This physical strength potion was exactly the same as the physical strength potion that Long Sheng, the richest man in Zishan, took last time. Li Hao did not expect that Zhou Zhenja would actually take out this thing this time. As for that, Li Hao was speechless. However, before Li Hao could say anything, Zhou Zhenja actually pulled it out and poured the stamina potion into his mouth. That was a decisive move. Hey, there's no need. Li Hao couldn't help shouting. Ah! When Zhou Zhenja heard Li Hao's voice, he couldn't help but be startled, and then said again. Young master, don't worry, my action is enough to deal with these two gatekeepers. Zhou Zhenja said proudly, his voice was full of strong confidence. At this moment, the powerful effect of the physical potion in Zhou Zhenja's body directly took effect, instantly releasing Zhou Zhenja's physical potential and starting to burn Zhou Zhenja's vitality. Boom! The powerful momentum was released from Zhou Zhenja's body, which was extremely amazing. At this moment, Zhou Zhenja's momentum reached the peak, and even surpassed the level of innate warriors, almost stepping into the foundation building stage. Li Hao heard Zhou Zhenja's voice and looked at this scene, but he was speechless. There is really no need to do this. These two shrimps in front of him were slapped away by himself, so why take physical potions to burn vitality? You two, die! Zhou Zhenja shouted angrily, bursting out with an incomparable might, and wanted to blast the two again. Buzz! But at this moment, the door in front of him, which was originally closed, suddenly opened slowly. Who is making noise here? A cold voice came from the gate. Someone came out of the gate. Everyone saw that several figures came out of the gate. They were all wearing white robes. The leader was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s or 50s. Next to him stood a sturdy young man and a beautiful woman. Behind him were some men who also looked like guards. At this moment, this was said by the sturdy young man. Shut up. However, just as the sturdy young man spoke, the middle-aged man shouted directly. The middle-aged man's sight fell directly on Li Hao. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 270. The middle-aged man looked at Li Hao with a look of excitement. The next moment, the middle-aged man came to Li Hao in a hurry. Bang! The middle-aged man knelt down in front of Li Hao in front of everyone. Master, you are finally here. I have been waiting for 18 years. The middle-aged man said to Li Hao excitedly. Little Li Hao had a lot of questions at this moment. What's going on? Li Hao was a little confused. Master. He waited for me for 18 years? Dad, what are you doing? Ah. Dad. Seeing this scene, the sturdy young man and the beautiful jade-faced girl also widened their eyes and said in disbelief. They were shocked. The middle-aged man in front of them was their father, a super strong man in the middle stage of the Jindan realm. He actually knelt down to a strange young man? Not only were they shocked by the scene in front of them, but the expressions on the faces of the guards of the palace behind them were also as wonderful as they could be. Not far behind, the tourists were stunned by the scene in front of them. Someone actually came out of the Li Wang mansion. He looked like the owner of the Li Wang mansion and knelt down in front of the young man. Baimwei was also stunned at this moment, and his heart was greatly shocked. Everyone was stunned. And Zhou Zhenja also opened his mouth wide at this moment, stunned. He had just taken the physical potion and was ready to take action. Now, he felt the powerful and violent power in his body, but he was completely confused. These were the powers he burned his vitality to exchange. It seems that there is no need to fight now. It's really hard to get off the tiger. What to do? Zhou Zhenja only felt that his whole body was about to burn, and the power was so great that there was no place to release it. He felt that he was going to explode. Damn, I miscalculated. Zhou Junja wanted to cry but had no tears. Li Hao felt Zhou Junja's strangeness. "Ah, I told you not to do it." "Really?" Li Hao sighed and said speechlessly. "Stand still. Don't move." Li Hao said to Zhou Junja in a deep voice. "Ah. Ah." Zhou Junja was stunned again when he heard Li Hao's words. He didn't know what Li Hao was going to do, but he still stood still. The next moment, everyone saw a jade needle appear in Li Hao's hand. Li Hao lightly activated the power of cultivation, and then the spiritual power entered the jade needle. Then, Li Hao stabbed the jade needle directly into Zhou Junja's body with lightning speed. Then, the second jade needle appeared again, and it was also stabbed into Zhou Junja's body in an instant. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, Zhou Junja had 5 more jade needles on his body. 5 of Li Hao's Tianqian 9 needles came out. The 5 acupuncture points on Zhou Junja's body were sealed by these 5 jade needles. The spiritual power entered Zhou Junja's body and directly suppressed the violent power in Zhou Junja's body, as if a powerful formation was born in his body, sealing up those powers. The violent aura on Zhou Junja's body dissipated instantly, and his abnormal complexion returned to normal. All this happened in just a moment. "Thank you, young master." Zhou Junja's eyes were filled with excitement and surprise, and he said to Li Hao gratefully. He even felt Li Hao's powerful means, and a few jade needles actually suppressed the power of the physical potion. Zhou Junja knew his physical condition at the moment. Not only did his body not suffer any damage, but it even became stronger. Moreover, the effect of the physical potion did not completely dissipate, but was sealed in his body and slowly absorbed by his body. This method is simply too powerful. Zhou Junja was more and more willing to surrender to Li Hao. In front of him, the middle-aged man was still kneeling in front of Li Hao, and the young man and woman behind him also had a gleam of brilliance in their eyes, and even had a shock in their hearts. Just now, when the other party was giving acupuncture, his body involuntarily released the aura of cultivation. And the aura of cultivation was clearly felt by the young man and the woman. It was an extremely powerful aura, giving them a feeling of vastness like the sea, which made the hearts of the two people have a storm. Monk. The other party is also a monk. And he is an extremely powerful monk. However, while the two people were shocked, they were very unhappy. Because the other party actually let their father kneel on the ground. "Uncle, get up. Did you recognize the wrong person?" Li Hao looked at the middle-aged man who was still kneeling in front of him and said lightly. The middle-aged man stood up, but he said it in an unquestionable tone. "It's impossible to make a mistake. Young master, you are my young master. You made me wait so long, and you finally came." Li Hao. Perhaps because he saw Li Hao's doubts, the middle-aged man immediately said to Li Hao. "Young master, are you called Li Hao? How do you know?" A strange color suddenly appeared on Li Hao's face. "Ha, that's right. Young master, you are the master of this Li Wang mansion. The master had asked me to wait for you here 60 years ago. My name is Xianyuan Lai, and I am the housekeeper of this Li Wang mansion." At this time, the middle-aged man said directly. "Master? Who is your master?" When Li Hao heard the other party's words, he immediately asked again, "How come there is another master? Could it be?" A thought suddenly came to Li Hao's mind. "I am an orphan, without a father or a mother. Could it be that this trip to Beijing has actually known my life experience?" However, Xianyuan Lai shook his head again and said weakly. "I don't know the master's name either. I have only seen the master twice. By the way, young master. This is my son, Xianyuan Qingfeng, and my daughter, Xianyuan Qingyu." Then, Xianyuan Lai introduced them to Li Hao again. "Why don't you two come to meet the young master?" Xianyuan Lai shouted at the two again. Ah! Ah! Dad! When Xianyuan Qingfeng and Xianyuan Qingyu heard Xianyuan Li's words, their faces suddenly changed and became extremely ugly. They said angrily, but stood there without any action. "Ah, what? Hurry up! Otherwise, I will destroy your cultivation and expel you from the family." Seeing the two of them like this, Xianyuan Li was a little angry. Hearing Xianyuan Li's words, the two of them changed their faces again. "Bye, see you, young master." Xianyuan Qingyu bowed weakly to Li Hao, and the whole person was a little unnatural. "Young master." Xianyuan Qingfeng made up his mind and bowed directly. God level tip, report the walking 500,000 at the beginning. Author, Tian Taido. Chapter 271. Xianyuan Qingfeng and Xianyuan Qingyu were both very reluctant, but forced by their father's majesty, they had no choice but to pay homage to Li Hao one after another. But in the hearts of the two of them, there was already a touch of pride. They are foundation-building monks, not ordinary people, and both of them are only in their 20s. It is not an exaggeration to call them geniuses, but at this moment they have to bow their heads to a guy who is younger than them. The two proud people simply couldn't accept it. "It doesn't have to be like this," Li Hao said calmly again. "Why don't you do this? You are the young master. You are the master of our Prince Li's mansion. My life was given by master. My son and daughter were born for Prince Li's mansion." However, this Xianyuan Li said directly. "From today on, Qingfeng, you will be the young master's personal guard, and Qingyu, you will be the young master's personal maid." I heard Dao Xianyuan Li say in a deep voice again. "Ah. No. Absolutely not. Why? Why should I be his personal bodyguard?" After hearing Xianyuan Li's words, Xianyuan Qingfeng and Xianyuan Qingyu's expressions became even more ugly and extremely resistant. "Why? Just because you are my children. Just because my life was given by the master. Just because our family's mission is to support the young master." Xianyuan Li said directly and sternly, his voice full of doubt. "Isn't this necessary?" But at this moment, Li Hao heard another weak voice beside him. "Well, I don't need guards or maids." "Master, you need it. You need it. You will definitely need it." Xianyuan Li said with a smile on the side. The way he treated Li Hao and the way he treated his children seemed to be a sharp contrast, and then said again. "Master, you must have endured a lot of hardships outside, right? You see that you are so thin, and you must need someone to protect you. With them two by your side, I feel relieved. If you need anything, just leave it to them, but just do it." When Li Hao heard what the other party said, he was speechless again. "Is it useful? How to use it? Have you suffered a lot? Why is he so thin? Still need someone to protect you? What kind of look is this? Are you someone who needs protection? Master, it's settled. You have to listen to this old slave." Seeing Li Hao still struggling, Xianyuan Li said immediately. "Okay. Seeing how sincere you are, I'll just accept them both." Li Hao sighed again and said weakly. "The other party is in such a hurry to send their children out? But he must be biological?" Li Hao's voice fell into the ears of Xianyuan Qingfeng and Xianyuan Qingyu, but it made their faces turn cold again. "Let's accept them both?" What a loud tone! Isn't he happy? Look down on them. How unreasonable. That's great. It's an honor for both of them. But when Xianyuan Li heard Li Hao's words, he said directly. Then, he glared at the two of them and said sternly. "I still haven't thanked you, master." Xianyuan Qingfeng and Xianyuan Qingyu looked cold, with millions of reluctances written on their faces, but they could not resist their father Xianyuan Li. "Thank you, master." "Thanks." The two spoke with difficulty, but they both wanted to die. This is typical. After selling yourself, you still have to thank the other party. When Li Hao saw the expressions of the two people, a coldness suddenly appeared on his face at this moment. I have to say something up front. Since you want to work under me, you must be obedient. Absolutely obedient. You cannot disobey my orders, you must obey them absolutely. I don't like people who are disobedient. Li Hao said coldly again. I know you are not convinced, and I don't want you to be arrogant in the middle stage of foundation establishment. But I advise you, put away your arrogance. So what if you are a foundation establishment monk? I really don't think highly of you. If you don't obey, even if you are foundation building monks, I will kill you. Immediately afterwards, Li Hao's voice came out slowly, but when it fell into the ears of Xianyuan Qingfeng and Xianyuan Qingyu, it made their faces extremely ugly and unnatural, but at the same time, there was a strange color in their eyes. They were surprised that the other party was able to tell them their level of cultivation in one breath. However, as soon as Li Hao's voice fell, the two people's expressions suddenly showed shock. Because, at this moment, a powerful aura was slowly released from the other party's body. He just stood there, but Xianyuan Qingfeng and Xianyuan Qingyu felt a strong oppression coming towards them at this moment. The powerful pressure caused the two people to change their expressions instantly, and they were almost unable to breathe. What a powerful momentum! This momentum was even more powerful than the oppression Xianyuan Lai put on the two of them. You know, their father is a super strong man in the middle stage of the Dan formation realm, and the other party is even more powerful than their father. Isn't that the late stage of the Dan formation stage, or even such a young person in the late stage of the Dan formation realm? How is this possible? Cold sweat broke out on both of their foreheads. Under this powerful oppression, both of them turned pale, and the pride in their hearts was instantly destroyed and disappeared. At this moment, the face of Xianyuan Lai next to him was also full of shock. He did not expect that the young master in front of him was so powerful, but soon he felt relieved again. Since the young master is a young master and the master of Prince Li's mansion, how can the descendants of the master be ordinary people? When Xianyuan Lai thought about it, and a smile appeared on his face. He felt that it was the most correct decision for him to give Xianyuan Qingfeng and Xianyuan Qingyu to Li Hao as escort maids. Let's go, young master. I'll take you in to see that there are many good things left by the master in Prince Li's mansion that I want to give to you. At this time, Xianyuan Lai spoke directly to Li Hao again. Li Hao nodded lightly, and under the guidance of Xianyuan Lai, walked towards the gate of Prince Li's mansion. At this time, the two guards guarding the door were already kneeling down in front of Li Hao, trembling. Li Hao glanced at the two men indifferently, but he didn't care too much. They were just two guards, and guarding the gate was within the scope of their duties. They did nothing wrong, although their attitude was not very good. Oh my God! Is this true? That guy is really the master of Prince Li's mansion. This is so humming unbelievable. Behind them, the tourists' expressions were extremely exciting when they saw this scene.